Oh my, it's Kellee White.
Hey, it's James and Kellee.
What are you up to?
Thinking about changing the world.
Me too. We should do a show together.
What would it be about?
Let me show you.
The James and Kellee Show.
Kellee!
James!
Hi,
Oh my!
Kellee. Long time no see.
I know. My God, I missed you so much.
No, we were supposed to spend last week, but we had an issue. First, astrologically, there was some major stuff hitting. So Mars,
hitting.
right?
It was Gandanta. Actually, Mars was
And what does
Gandanta.
Gandanta mean?
Gandanta means that it's at 27, 28, 29 degrees of a water sign and 1 or 2 degrees of a fire sign. So it was Mars was Gandanta in Cancer, which is a water sign, headed into a fire sign. And
Mars is fire. And Mars is a fire planet.
Mars causes such problems all the time, but it does move us along. So it's kind of a good thing on some level, except that day I got stuck on the tarmac for 4 hours in Dallas and nobody was moving anywhere. Nobody.
Yeah. I've been there, by the way. I've been there many a time on a tour in Dallas, stuck on the tarmac. Yeah.
Oh, well, you were there when there was a tornado.
That's right. Oh, no, sure. A tornado, and I go to the bathroom of the congregation. We all go to the bathroom, and then it was snowing the next morning. That's right.
That's right. We all have our Dallas stories.
Well, we will come back in a couple of weeks. We'll do the readings for
2
everybody.
weeks. Yes, next week we have a really interesting show on past lives, and the week after. But for live readings, Friday night.
This Friday night, I'm going to be doing live readings. That's right. Yes, I'm doing a whole night of readings. And if you'd like to go and buy tickets for this event, it's on my website, vanprog.com. Right there is a banner for you. And I don't think a lot of people have signed up. So go on and grab a ticket.
Sign up, everybody. It's going to be a great night. You're going to love it.
It's a really great night, especially if you have never seen it before. I find it sometimes easier on Zoom to read people than in person, for sure. I don't know. It's something very about it that you just space out and connect right with the spirit.
Yeah.
So please join me. And Kellee, we should get right to our guest tonight.
Oh, please.
A very special guest that I met. We had his wife on the show a month. Kelly Russell was on the show about a month and a half ago, right?
Yes.
And this is her husband, Kevin. And I met Kevin, and Kelly and I, we went to a party. And Kevin is we call him an energetic alchemist, healer. And he's a very interesting young man. I'm going to read his background here. He wrote a book this book is My Guy on the Ninth Floor, which is an amazing book, an incredible read. You'll find it really just a lot of information here. And I said to Kevin, you have 2 books in one or 3 books. There's so much information packed in here. And I'm going to read you his background. He started as a designer. Kevin, a designer and first-time author, Kevin Russell. He helps people optimize their lives from their energetic foundation. After a profound encounter connected to his higher self, he realized that coupling the skills he had honed in his design career with what he had learned on his own journey of self-discovery, he had the keys to guide others at lightning-fast speed through a step-by-step process to experience the self-awareness, self-expansion, and healing that is so deeply needed today for each of us individuals and collectively as our planet. And I experienced Kevin's healing when I went to an event with him and Kellee, where I had trouble with my Achilles heel. And I'm sitting there, and Kevin said, "Can I work on you?" I said, "Sure." And I just looked over, and Kevin was in some space and doing he was doing muscle testing or something with his fingers. He'll explain what. And I felt this pulsation in my foot. And it was very strange. And it was within 5 minutes. And he mentioned what was going on there. And then I was able to go dancing for 2.5 hours with Kevin and Kellee after that. I felt no pain after that.
That's amazing.
This is from Kevin, yeah. I'm going to read you a poem. This is his book here again, My Guy on the Ninth Floor, Higher Self. I'll explain that. But I'm going to read the poem that Kevin wrote when he was 18. It's called Today. I woke up late today and rushed to eat breakfast in the car. I drove too fast again today, praying to get the last parking lot. School dragged on again today. Same classes, same people, same mindless curriculum, same teenage bullshit. I got home early from school today and bummed a ride to the beach, but the beach was closed today. Someone decided to park their boat neatly on the raft, and it hemorrhaged oil and gas, leaching its toxicity into the world. My mom was gone again today when I finally got back home. I took a shower for a long time today, letting the warm building blocks of life cascade off my body and tumble down the drain. Standing naked in my darkened room, dripping wet from a sadness I couldn't explain, I put the cold barrel of a gun in my mouth today, but I didn't pull the trigger. Not yet. Not today. That's Kevin. So please help us introduce Kevin Russell. With that, hi, Kevin.
Hi, Kevin.
Hey, everybody.
Welcome.
Welcome. And that's a poem you wrote when you were 18 years of age.
Mm-hmm.
Explain that a little bit, would you
Yeah.
please? That's pretty amazing.
Yeah. So I was a writing seminar class senior year in high school, and it was a lot of self-study. It was really creative, expressive writing. And that fall, I had a thought cross my field of, what if I just wasn't here anymore? And I reacted to it. I got a little bit scared, and then I got angry. And it was the anger that really brought me right up against whatever the fear was. And so I allowed myself, and for, I guess, trigger warning, this, as James just read the poem, with the book, we get into it really quick. So in my mind visualization, instead of running away from the fearful thought or the scary idea, I basically held myself to task. And in my head, I was kind of saying, all right, tough guy, you're the one having these thoughts. Let's take it through. Let's go all the way. And so in my mind, I did. I let myself visualize what it would be like to take that action. And it was really, in retrospect, my first experience in post-death consciousness, where I allowed myself to go through a death experience, visualization, and I just felt kind of peaceful presence and not much on the other side. So there was nothing as charged on the other side of the experience once I went through it in my mind, except for when I started visualizing what my friends and my family and my sister would be going through were I to take that action. Mm-hmm. And I think Keanu Reeves he answered the question, what happens to us when we die? I think it was on Stephen Colbert or some late night show. And his answer was beautiful and brilliant. And it was something to the effect of, I know that those who remain will miss us. Because once we stop this experience, then we start another experience. That, you know, every new beginning is some other beginning's end. I love that line. Mm-hmm. And so really the poem was an encapsulation of that experience I had. And really was a little bit feeling that way at the time, where it's like, well, I didn't do it today, but what's going to be different tomorrow to change anything? The only thing that can be different is us. We are the ones that have to change in order to change that expression, or to change that.
But to have that insight at 18 years of age and to write like that at 18 is pretty astounding. Can we go back to the beginning? So you started. You're originally from Chicago, right? You just said.
And California, raised a little bit in San Diego. Okay. I was born up in the Bay Area for like a month or two, moved down here. A lot of traveling for my dad's job. San Diego early on. Elementary school is really Chicago, which was great. Okay. We had cousins back there. And I always tell everyone, if you've seen the movie Dennis the Menace, because we were in a western suburb, that's kind of how it felt. Like, you know, nobody's locking doors, riding bikes all the way to the candy shop, all these things. Moved back out to San Diego in 7th grade, and then I've been here ever since. And
you wanted to be a designer. What kind of designer did you want to be?
Yeah, I went to school for graphic design. I had I put it in the book about finding. So one of the things that we can do is match our interest with our talent. Talent is innate. That is something that we have. That comes through with us, and a lot of times we get that talent flame diminished because of others' input or others' ideas. Parents, friends, oh, you shouldn't do that. How are you ever going to make a living doing that? Well, you need to go into the family business, or we're career this, that, or the other. So you need to be career this, that, or the other. So identifying that talent and recognizing it, and then finding something you're interested in and going for it. So I always felt like I had the talent for problem solving, for breaking, things down and understanding them more simply. And then my interest was design from a very young age. And I wanted to be a graphic designer. That's what I went to school for. And as you know, from the late 1990s to now, basically, as design has evolved and really gotten much more screen oriented, I had an agency for a while, a little boutique design agency, and we specialized in interactive design or interface design. So anything with a human computer layer of interaction, where there is a complex set of business ideas, business requirements, or product specifications that need to be usable, easy, and user-friendly. And then we would translate those specs into a functional digital product. So website, software, application, phone app, web app, all those types of things.
And bring us to that point where you got to the point of working with energy, I guess I should say, that your initial experiences, if you will, and share with everybody.
I was talking with my wife Kelly about that this week. It was starts and stops and interest in different points. So I started doing breath work when I was in high school, middle school, high school, because I was surfing and I wanted to really have good lung capacity for being able to surf, big waves. And so that was inadvertently my introduction to breath work. I was engaging my sister. I was saying, hey, just come out into the pool real quick and stand on my back. I need to be submerged. I don't want to move. I want to see how long I can hold my breath for. So breathwork started early. Kelly and I started being introduced to yoga in the early 2000s, 2003, 2004. Meditation, breathwork. Really started to get into mindfulness. I read a ton of books, a lot of energy-based books. Joe Dispenza, Louise Hay. Kelly's really the resource, and so she'd be able to list them all off in short order. And then so we were doing our own thing, just kind of yoga's fun, yoga's good. It was still very external. I wanted to do yoga so I could maintain my level of surfing that I wanted, because I wanted to be strong, I wanted to be flexible, and I wanted to be balanced. And started not too much diving into energy until after our daughter was born. She started to experience expressions of dis-ease, which is a word I use a lot. And the symptom of that was blemishes on her skin and then picking. So she had basically an anxious habit. At least in my mind, I was like, well, something's wrong with our daughter. We need to help her. It turns out, we find out it's actually something going on between Kelly and I that she's picking up on, and that is making her anxious.
Wow.
And so we had really were for aware as we assumed we were, there was a vast ocean that we had not even dipped our toe into, let alone knew was there. And that's when we started to get into subconscious change work, started looking at muscle testing and psychological kinesiology, and really just self practice of those techniques. And I went silly with self muscle testing. In retrospect, what I realized I was doing was training my intuition. I was training myself to connect my head with my heart, which, if we're not connected, we're literally leaving 50% of the equation, if not more, on the shelf.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
I was testing what shirt to wear, what to eat for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, what shampoo to use in the shower. I was just done making decisions. I was like, I'm curious what my system's going to say. Started feeling better and better the more emotional work we did, the more trauma that we identified and released and transformed. And I got to this point where I was kind of feeling high on the horse, and I was doing good, feeling good. We're on a holiday, and all of a sudden I get hit with what my symptoms were. And what I noticed was, well, the basis of the book is everything is energy. From that standpoint, if we look at it through physics and Newton's law, energy can't be created or destroyed, but it can and does change form. So if we experience energetic dis-ease, it can transform into high blood pressure, into irritable bowel symptoms, restless legs, sciatica, any number of physical expressions that we've identified symptoms of, we have a label for, but we don't have any cure for. We've just got mitigation factors. I can almost guarantee there's an energetic component at play. Some of those energetic components I wasn't expecting, like this trip, where I started to get a ton of ancestral energy really being served up for processing and transformation. My big bundle was really 17 and 18 generations back on my mom's side, to the extent where I've been using muscle testing, identifying which side of the family it was on, how far back it was, if it was masculine or feminine energy that was presenting, or that it was holding on to it. And as soon as I tapped into that, I literally, it felt like I got dropped into Western Ireland in the 15 or 1600s, and like smelling the like wet stone of a hut or a jail, the soot of the fireplace, the low hanging, earth ceiling. I was really dropped into that experience. So that was really the start of it, is like not judging, not really thinking, just being open to what was there and curious. And the more curious I was, the more my spectrum and my awareness expanded, and it continues to this day. It's a continual, expansion.
What happened on November 19th? Or November 21st, 2019?
Yeah.
You talk about that particular experience.
Yeah. So that was, again, it was the end of one beginning and the beginning of another. It was to this point my enlightenment experience. Been doing a lot of diligent work. As I mentioned, this started in 2016 or so. So 2015, 2016. So Kellee and I have been, doing our thing for 3 or 4 years. Kellee, obviously, as she shared with you, with you both in the audience, had been practicing professionally for a year or two with these techniques at the time, but leveraging her background. And I was just saying yes to pretty much everything. Any energetic technique, any camp, group of thought, I was saying yes to. So there's something called body talk that I tried, cranial sacral therapy, Reiki. It just, I was like, yes, I'm feeling better, and this is amazing how good I feel. I was taking a full breath for the first time in 35 years. Tons of IBS, leaky gut symptoms started evaporating. Tightness in my chest, high blood pressure, pre-hypertension started to disappear. And only when these symptoms would come back, that's what I mentioned when I was feeling my dis-ease, was I recognizing, okay, something's off. Because I don't feel this way all the time anymore. Now that I do, what's going on? So that's why I would inquire. And then I started absorbing energy from other people. And at this point, I was wide open. I really didn't have any way, understanding of how to regulate. So we'd be out to dinner, and I'd feel something hit me, and I'd be muscle testing down to the side. I'm like, okay, it's that guy in the corner with the family. That's so I excused myself to go to the bathroom. Like, all right, let me handle this for a second, and doing the best I could with the tools I had at the time. And I got recommended it's called a Biofield harmonics session, Biofield harmonics healing session, from a practitioner in Carlsbad, California, North County, San Diego. All I knew at the time was there was something just beyond my perception that I couldn't quite put my finger on, but I knew was right there. And at the time, and I still describe it as almost like a toddler in a dark room, feeling your way around, like, kind of walking hand over hand, like, okay, I feel the chair, I feel the crib, I feel the dresser, and there's more. I know there's more. I just don't know what it is. So go to the session with this practitioner. It was a no touch, no talk session. We had a bit of an intake, if you will, for about a half hour, maybe 45 minutes. Just, well, why are you here? What can I do for you? Got on a massage table, so it was just on my back with sheets and a blackout mask on. And I felt the practitioner was a woman. I felt her walking around the table and not much else. It was peaceful. It was calm, but I didn't, I was like, okay, this is nice. And then I started getting very familiar scenes playing in my mind's eye. The first was, let's see, what was the first one? Oh, it was like like Washington or Oregon, like the deciduous rainforest, kind of those real tall trees, the ferns, nice, cool, the sun filtering through the trees. I love the Pacific Northwest. So I was basically being shown things that were familiar and comfortable and enjoyable to me. The second one was a low flying, almost drone shot flying over the surf. I've surfed my whole life. So that was like, yeah, okay, I love that. Then it was basically dove me underwater, and just the feeling of being submerged, which I've always felt very, very at home in the water. And then there was one memory that I think is a stronger one, because I've seen it on a home movie, of me playing soccer out front of our house in Rancho Penasquitos back in the early 80s with a friend. I might have been 4 or 5 years old. and then I was like, oh, this is enjoyable, kind of like, my metaphysical popcorn, just, enjoying the show type of thing. And then that fades out, fade to black. And then I basically get hit with a supernova inside my head. It was so bright that I was squinting my eyes behind this blackout mask. And in short order, then it was wave after wave of what I describe as pure uncut love just coursing through my body, to the extent where I was cry laughing, because it was too much energy for me. And it was almost just like a ridiculous, like, oh my gosh, this is crazy. What's going on? Okay, this is all right, just going with it. And then it started to settle, almost like dropping a rock in a pond where the ripples go out, and then they get less and less as everything kind of comes back to stasis. And then the really weird thing happened. The voice in my head changed. And I didn't realize this until after the fact, but not everybody has a voice in the head. But a lot of times if we're reading a book or, we're thinking, we hear it in our voice. So it was me, but it was like just a fraction of a degree from what I've known, almost like it was a long lost twin that you never knew was there, but you always felt was there. And what I heard in my own voice in my own head was, oh my gosh, I'm so glad you made it. We're going to have so much fun together.
Wow.
Yeah. So I was like, that's something new. That hasn't happened to me before. Okay. I'm again, open and curious. So the functional part of the session winds down. The practitioner, I sit up, she gives me some water, and she doesn't know what I've experienced, and I don't know what information she's gotten. And so we have basically a debrief afterwards. So she says, okay, so what happened was you basically just connected to your higher self. You're here to create a new human design, knowing full well that human design theory already exists. And I was like, immediately I knew this was going to be something different. And the second thing I knew was this was going to be a book. It just was a knowing. It just came to me. And then I had a knowing that there's actually going to be 2 additional books after this one, and they're going to be a paired grouping, basically, not a trilogy, but they're going to be working together. So then she starts speaking my design language, and this is an energy practitioner. She's been wide open since she was very young. Spirits, energy guides have been communicating with her. She did very well in real estate. Now she's doing her energy facilitation full time. So out of nowhere, she starts using language that is very industry specific. And she literally was saying, I don't know what this means. I'm just going to say it.
Wow.
And it's hitting. I mean, I'm getting truth bumps all over, like, chills down my spine, chills down my legs and my arms. I'm like, yeah, I know exactly what that means. I'm taking furious notes because I'm like, I need to remember all of this. Wow. So then she says, which is where the title of the book comes in. She says, okay, it's like you're on an elevator in a high rise going from the 3rd to the 5th floor. Yeah. And your guy in the 9th floor is like, hey, buddy, up here. This is where the action is. Yeah. Wow. And so that was something that really stuck with me.
Wow.
And then it was probably over about a 3-hour session. And I drove immediately to my wife Kelly's office and said, I shared with the experience. I said, this is what happened. I can't do design anymore. I can't not do this. Like, this is all I can do now.
Or not the regular kind of design. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Different, same principle, similar approach, but yeah, different material, 100%. Thank you, James. I appreciate that. So that was a Thursday. That Friday, the worst hangover I've ever had in my life. Not a lick to drink Thursday night, hydrating like crazy, woke up cotton-headed, base of my neck hurt, my whole body ached, just real lethargic, and I was still doing design work at the time. I still had a bunch of projects and clients, going on. I couldn't get anything done, sitting on my computer, staring at the same emails, not doing, refreshing pages. I'm just like, I literally can't function right now.
Excuse me, Kevin, was that, you think, because that new energy was coming in? Is that what that had to be? I would think. Yeah.
100%. It was, it was a reconciliation of the new and the old. And it's like, oh, this happened, but now how does this work? How does this fit and function together?
Has to acclimate itself to the physical. Yeah.
100%. Absolutely. Yeah. Can configure, come back, come into phase as opposed to being out of phase, if we're looking at it from an energetic standpoint. So Kelly gets home from work and she looks at me, she's like, what is going on? I'm like, I don't know. I feel awful. She says, you need to take an Epsom salt bath. And I'm like, I haven't taken I'm still like, you know, a little bit three-dimensional at this point. And I'm like, I haven't taken a bath since I was 5. I take showers. Like, I'm not taking a bath. She's like, take an Epsom bath. I'm like, okay, fine. I get in the bath, and it was literally like the end of ET, where he gets reanimated and the plant comes back to life.
Sure.
I was like, oh my gosh. And I was right back to how it felt on the table. And I was like,
Wow.
okay, it's back. This is crazy. And then, you know, fits and starts of additional settling. And then about 2 weeks later is when the book started just flying out of me. Like
Downloading it. Yeah.
Exactly.
Downloading.
Yeah.
And how did you turn this into, how do you, it's just some of the things I ask you, but you work, I know you and Kellee work together, but you also work separately, don't you?
Yeah. Yeah.
And how does that present itself?
Yeah. So I think Kellee is very process driven as far as if this, then this, based on what's presenting with the client. Okay, we do this, and then we see where are things at. Okay, now we're doing this one, because based on just the flow of the processes. And in that way, I feel like she's a little bit more of a surgeon with energy work.
Yeah.
I'm a little bit more like an earth mover or excavator, where I tap into a client's system and I say, all right, this is our intention. This is what we're doing. This is where we're at. We're ready. If anything that is safe and appropriate, and anything that is in the client's best and highest good, whatever that is, we're taking it all. And so I tend to go just with the client-led approach, with whatever their system is ready for and whatever they are able to process, to get information from, to release, to have to have an assistance in the transformation.
And I remember Kevin Kellee worked on me. She did, according to the book of her, the muscle testing, and 1, 2, 3, 4. And when you worked on me, it was a whole, she worked for different reasons for me. But when you worked on me on my Achilles, you said, I don't remember this, because you said, oh, okay, you have coagulation. Let me remove the coagulation. That's what you said. And you did. You removed that coagulation.
Yeah.
And after that, I was able to be free of that.
So so it's like a 2-step. One is energetic, emotional, and event-based trauma transformation. The other is subconscious transformation. If we have beliefs or conditioning or programming stuck at the subconscious level, things like, I'm unworthy, I'm not good enough, I can't do it. There's these ideas, they're not ours. We don't consciously think these things, but they're programs that we've got embedded because of external influences, because of one impactful event that we may have had with a primary caregiver. And so that's one side. And then the other side, to your point, James, is energy system tune-up or energy system balance. And this is kind of taking a springboard off of the quantum physics place that I come from, looking at all of this. So the book is really based in quantum physics. For me, that was the glue or the gel that brought everything together. My whole life, I was raised Irish Catholic, so I was, going to church regularly, and I was always asking yes and. Right, I understand what you're saying. I understand the tenets. I understand the broad strokes, and I did the same thing with philosophy, with science, with other theologies, with New Age, with self-help. It was never the full picture for me. And then with the inroads and the awareness that I gained through self-muscle testing, plus the modalities and the practices that I've utilized and that I've kind of transformed and evolved, marrying those with looking at our energetic systems from, is there negative or dark energy present that's impacting us? Where are our energy connections between the main nexus points of our system? So mind, spirit, heart, body, and emotion. Where are our bodies, our energy bodies lining up? From an Eastern tradition, this would be called our koshas. So are our koshas energetically optimized to 100% function? Meridian systems. I look at the primary 12 chakras and making sure everything's balanced, because if we're over-energized or under-energized, it's going to be impacting ourselves. And then I look at more the ecology. So immune system, nervous system, adrenal system. If our system is in harmony with biome, bacteria, and viruses, the naturally occurring flora and fauna that we inhabit with this form. And then we get into some of the more conceptual places with energy. So I look at our polarity on a quantum grid. Are we polarized to maxed out light and love, or are we diminished? Looking at light and love as an XY axis. I look at if there's any spirit out of body, which is very, very common. If life gets too intense, a lot of times I like to think of it as parasailing. Our soul or our spirit can say, okay, this is getting a little crazy, you deal with this, and then just lets out a little bit more line on the parasail. And so that's where we can feel cloudy headed, cotton headed, a hard time concentrating, not feeling like we're us, we're ourselves, so to speak. And then there's a couple that came to me that were basically universal consciousness connections, or connections to our personal connection to the energy that is greater than our individual expression. So I operate from the standpoint that we are all fractalized expressions of source, God, the universe, spirit, Father, Son, whatever the term is. And we are part of the whole, but we are not the expression of the whole, because we're here to have human experiences and experience the contrast of the world and release resistance to the contrast we experience. That's the kicker. So many of us are so resistant to either other ways of thinking, other ways of being or doing, resistant to our own families, resistant to ourselves. And the resistance is where we create the dis-ease within our biome, within our mind, within our subconscious mind body.
So when you work with somebody, Kevin, do you then look at their resistance?
That's the first thing I check.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is there resistance to whatever our focus is for the session? If so, that's the very first stop. And then once that resistance is removed, it's a lot smoother, until sometimes we come up against another very sticky point.
Yeah.
And it's hyper individual, whatever that is. And then if it's safe and appropriate and it's in their best and highest good, then we address the sticky point, and then we continue on.
Wow.
Yeah.
So are you talking, it could be anything then? It could be emotionally, physically, anything.
Chemical wise, yeah.
Chemical.
Brainwaves. He works with brainwaves a lot as well.
Yeah.
I mean, some of the titles of the book here, some of the parts of the book: quality of body, mind expansion through release, breath work, living fulfilled life, radical energy, honesty, acceptance, empathy. I'm touching a little bit here, but the quantum field energy theories. You go through the several books in one here.
Wow.
And it just feels as if your higher self, that higher essence, wrote this, is channeling right through you.
Yeah.
I mean, it really is amazing. And when I first met Kevin, and he came to my house, and we had a little gathering, and I was like, "Oh, your eyes are just like," and what it was, Kevin, it's the sparkle from your eyes. It's a spark. It's that glistening, is I think what it is. Is that I think that's part of it. You'll meet people
I can see that,
who have that sense, and you'll be like, wow, that energy. And with you, I remember it was the eyes. Your eyes were very focused. And I was with a lady yesterday, similar energy, very, very, we all know that when somebody feel this wonderful electricity, this very, incredible energy. I think you've definitely, it's amazing. It's amazing.
That's very kind of you. I really appreciate that. But it's really just there's nothing in the book that I haven't done for myself or to myself. And so this really is hey, this worked for me, so it can work for anybody. It's really our capacity for moving past our own fear and releasing resistance in our lives.
Here's an interesting question from Sue Lopez. Says, Kevin, can you diagnose? I'm having trouble getting enough oxygen. Doctor thinks it's an allergy because I have the symptoms, but can't find any allergies to explain it. So do you do that? Do you diagnose it all?
I mean, I can connect with an individual's system and communicate what the system is communicating to me. So in that regard, I can provide information that could be a diagnosis.
Yeah, you're not a doctor, so you're not a medical doctor.
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, to the point about trouble getting enough oxygen, like I mentioned before, I didn't realize I had been holding my breath for 35 years to, for all intents and purposes, until it was actually in a body talk session where it was a big, just kind of, in the visualization was just this inky. So a lot of times when we're working with the subconscious, we need to be explicit. We need to be speaking in the present, because our subconscious doesn't understand past, present, or future. It's quantum in that regard. And it doesn't understand negatives. So if we say, I don't want this anymore, what our subconscious hears is, I want this, because it does not understand negatives. And as humans, we're very, very focused on what we don't want. We're very good at identifying what we
True.
don't want.
Very true.
The more challenging part is really admitting to ourselves what we do want and embodying that. And so from that standpoint, there's visualization. So I felt this basically this inky black plug was my visualization, just unplug. And it was one of the first times in a long time. So if we've got time, if you're okay, I mean, I can tap in real quick and see if there's any information that I get.
That would be great. With Sue Lokman, that would be great.
Yeah.
If that's what you mean. Yeah. Sue?
Yeah, absolutely.
So lovely.
Is that all right with you, Sue? If you're listening, I think you are. Here we go.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So let's take just a sec, safe and appropriate to, and I'm going to shorthand it a little bit, just for sake of time here. So safe and appropriate to connect and work. Yes. It's in Sue's best and highest good. Yes. It's in my best and highest good. Yes. There is something within the system that is communicating that this should be avoided for now. No, that's testing weak. Okay. All right, Sue. So trouble getting enough oxygen. This is physical. This is mental. This is emotional. So this is spiritual. This is connection. No. Capacity. No. Dark energy. Traumatized energy. Something spiritual. Something that is missing. Something there is excess of. Something there's excess of. On this, oh, okay, grounding, more than that. All right, so Sue, James and Kellee, are you familiar with Sue? Is she a friend of the show?
No,
I know. I've actually had a session with Sue.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
So Sue, what I'm getting is you're a bit too out here, and your physical systems are kind of struggling to keep up with your spiritual exploration. So grounding, I mean, let's see, something I can do for Sue right now. Yeah, it would be more involved than just kind of a quick 5-minute exploration. But as far as recommendations, anything you can do to ground,
get back in the body,
to get back in the body.
Right.
Walks in nature, barefoot, physically contacting nature, rebounding, bouncing, heel drops. I saw somebody mention that they checked out the YouTube channel. We've got 2 really good videos for how to disrupt a negative energy pattern, and then for how to utilize a whole brain or a hookup posture to really optimize our lives from a daily awareness practice. So check out those videos, especially the disrupt the negative energy patterns. Epsom baths, as we've been talking about, wonderful way to ground.
I love those.
Making sure you're hydrated as well. Dehydration can cause all kinds of issues because we're an electromagnetic system. And so it's basically like, I mean, expecting a battery to operate at 20% capacity. So hydration would be another big one, something more for Sue right now. Yeah, daily practices, daily grounding practices for 2, 1, 3 times, more than that, 2 times, more than that. So yeah, like an additional, whatever you're doing right now, an additional 2 times per week of focused and with intention, grounding and connecting. So when walking with nature, you can almost do a walking meditation, very, very slow steps. We're in no hurry. We're not in a rush to get anywhere. Feeling the heel, the foot, the arch connect with the ground. And then the next step. Start with your eyes down. Watch what happens to the ground as your foot makes contact. If it's grass, if it's dirt, if it's sand. And then as you're walking, slowly, gradually, bring your eyes up as you're going. Every, 15, 20 steps. And you're taking in each layer of view as you're going up, and then you go back down. That's at least what I'm getting right now. There's trauma, energy, ancestral. This is all, yeah. Right. This is nothing past life. No, this is just all you, and you're basically what I'm getting is kind of your body's calling you back home. Your body's like, Like, yeah, I love what you're doing, but I want to come. Like, bring me along.
Yeah.
Gotta be
Actually makes a lot of sense, Kevin, what you
Okay.
just said with her. I have a question for you. Renee Hounsel asks, are you working with tapping into our higher self as well as our aspect here?
Yeah, so thank you so much, Renee, for that question. At the beginning of every session, part of the intention that we set is that one, the client system is leading the effort. I'm not in charge. I'm just helping with what comes. And the intention we set is something to the effect of we are putting the places within us, the parts of us that already know how to do this work, and the places within us where this work is already done in the driver's seat. Higher self, inner God, universal concierge, whatever the label is, that is the energy that we're putting in the driver's seat on both sides. So 100%. And if there is, and I do finger quotes around dark or negative energy because it's all duality perception in this world. It's just energy that has been lacking love for so long that it's acting out and it's really reactive.
That's excellent.
Yeah,
That's what I refer to it as. Exactly
yeah.
right.
Any duality is there to really help us interpret and make our way in the world. Ooh, that's cold. Oh, okay, that's hot. I understand. And then we get understandings of, oh, this is good or this is bad, but it's all subjective.
I have a quick question for you, Kevin. Did you ever get, let's say, just an example, an IBS for someone you're working IBS? Could that be, and you look for, let's say, a cause for that? Have you ever had an experience where you have different people, different IBS, but the cause is very different, but it manifests as IBS? So different causes create that same syndrome? Does that make
100%.
sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
So it's always it could be a different cause all the time, but it manifests differently. Manifests the same. Okay.
Exactly. And so we are all hyper individual, to the extent where the chances of us being born as a human are something like 400 trillion to 1. So first of all, like everybody listening, you're amazing. You exist right now. That's spectacular. This is wild just in and of that. The other part is that we are physical, mental, spiritual, and emotional beings, and everything is connected. So if there's some dis-ease going on at the emotional, spiritual, or mental level, and we have a physical low point or a physical weak spot, if you think back, it's like, oh, rain's coming. I can feel it in my knee. That's an example of a physical weak spot that's tuning into the environment. So if we have back issues, or if we've got hip or knee issues, or if we've got irritable bowel issues, 100% there can be real world physical things. I mean, we've been soaking our grain in glyphosate for the better part of 20 or 30 years. So there's literally Roundup being poured on wheat crops. So yes, we can't discount physical things impacting us physically, to the same extent where we can't dismiss emotional, mental, or spiritual states of dis-ease impacting us physically as well. So I've worked with clients that have had gastrointestinal dis-ease or distress, and there had been a one or two that were actually, you need to change your diet. There's too much processed food. There's too much packaged food. You need to get back to more cleanly cooked and or raw fruits, vegetables, and ancient grains. In addition to there being emotional, energetic traumas in play as well. So what I've seen is if there's an energetic low point, let's see. So here's the low point in our system. Energy can basically get packed in, and that system can become inflamed. That part of the system can become inflamed. That's where we get systemic inflammation, adrenal, immune, and central nervous system depletion, where we start feeling frayed around the edges.
I was just talking about this yesterday with a friend of mine. She actually came over to visit me, and she was just talking about how combining certain foods, puts a lot of pressure on your digestive system and has to work extra hard, creating a lot more heat in the body because of the exactly what you're talking about. So it works extra hard. So more energy is needed there and to throw off other systems.
Yeah. And going back to Sue's situation, if we spend too much time kind of as psychonauts and doing exploration, and we don't balance that back with physical real world expressions, dang it, that was such a juicy nugget, and it just It just escaped. Shoot.
You got to ground yourself more, Kevin. Just
Right. That's exactly. Well, I mean,
well, a friend of ours said, we repeat this all the time because it's so well put. She said, you can't be so spiritually aware that you know earthly good.
Thank you,
I love
Mavis.
that.
Thank you, Mavis. It says it all. Because a lot of people think
That's
spiritual,
beautiful.
you got to be out here. No, you really
Right.
got to be in here.
Right.
The most spiritual. Well, thank you so much for saying that. And real quick, circling back around to what I forgot and just remembered. Yeah. So food combinations can absolutely be it, and we can address the energy in that low point, transform it.
Wow.
If it is something that it's been around for a while, or it's been, it's almost like Scrooge McDuck's worry path outside his vault.
Mhm.
The more that we walk the path without addressing it, the deeper and more resonant it can become. It's kind of like a record. The more times the record plays, the grooves get more pronounced. So if our pronounced groove is this gastrointestinal dis-ease, we remove whatever's there. It's kind of like the chip machine where you punch in your D5 and your chips come down, and then the next bag of chips winds its way right to the front.
Mhm.
More energy can find its way to that spot as well. So there can be just quantum flips and one and done with energy transformation, but more often than not, it's like it's like stripping paint. Sometimes it takes a couple passes,
Sure.
a couple sessions before we actually get everything, and then the dip is popped back to resonance.
Kevin, I have a question. Do you work with children?
I have, yeah. Actually, children, kids, and individuals who are on the spectrum.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's all energy. Yeah.
Wow.
And the book is my guy on the ninth floor. Here it is right here. And Kevin, you were going to do something for everybody in the group. You thought some kind of a process you want to do for everybody today?
Yeah, absolutely. So this one is a visualization that I utilize in my sessions with one-on-one clients. And it helps to really, one, it is a grounding technique. Two, it helps to increase our broadcast, increase our resonant broadcast. I don't really subscribe to protections in any way, shape, or form.
I don't either.
So I really drill everything down to its core. So at its core, there's, looking at it from electrical energy, you have energy, you've got resistance. Any form or expression of resistance is going to keep us out of balance. And so I think part of the sparkle you mentioned might be because I've been processing, transforming, and releasing resistance in every form I can possibly imagine for the better part of 20 years in different shapes, really accelerating in the last 4 or 5 though. So instead of putting up protections, we're increasing our resonance of love, feeling love, increasing that broadcast, and increasing the size of that resonance. So for this one, we will be utilizing the posture I had mentioned before. It's the whole brain posture. Hookup posture is another way that it's termed. And then we're simply crossing our limbs. So for everyone listening, we're going to cross our legs at our ankles. And let's go ahead and have that be our right ankle in front of our left. And then a couple different options for our arms. So for our arms, we're going to cross at the wrist, and this one's going to be left over right. And if anyone has wrist issues or arthritis or anything, you can simply just rest this crossing of the arms in your lap, or you can turn the thumbs down, interlace the fingers, and then this clasp, you can just rest in your lap, or if it's comfortable, fold up and under, or under and up, I should say, until your pinkies are resting against your chest. So this body posture is a very, very powerful disruptor of energy signals. And if we get dropped into fight, flight, freeze, which most of us are to some low grade expression almost always, or we're feeling sad or angry or tired or you name it on the negative end of the adjective or verb spectrum, if we don't disrupt that energetic pattern, it's just going to keep looping. So this is a great way to disrupt an energy pattern, to bring both hemispheres of our brain back in online, hence the name, the whole brain posture. turn down the intensity of our limbic system, our lizard brain, which is where all those, our senses are, fight, flight, freeze responses, really informing our limbic system. It's okay, you can stand down. We're safe. We're okay. We're good. So the next part of this, completely relax the diaphragm to the extent where we're even pooching our belly out a little bit, going for more of a Buddha belly than we are bodybuilder belly. More Homer Simpson than David Hasselhoff. Nice full diaphragmatic breaths, just a couple of degrees more than we would with our natural breath. We're not hyperventilating, nothing fast, just from the base of the belly to the top of the lungs, and then almost just like letting air out of a balloon, top of the lungs to the base of the belly. So just a little bit extended on the natural breath. The next thing we're going to do is imagine, envision, or remember a time that we have experienced unconditional, unbridled, unjudgmental, just pure unconditional love. A lot of times for parents, this might be the first time we met our child. For those of us without children, it could be a random act of kindness that we experience with another. It can be just an achievement. It can be something, giving ourselves a shot where we didn't think we would. It can be trying something new, that feeling of exhilaration that comes with trying something new. But tap into that feeling of unconditional love. And if it's something that we haven't experienced or we can't remember, we can pull on media. So when have you seen unconditional love in a movie or on a show, read it in a book, heard it in a song? Little Whitney Houston, I Will Always Love You. Give yourself a minute or two, and we're going to, almost like building a fire, start to create that feeling in the middle of our chest, right in our heart center. Stick with the breath, nice full breath. Now we're going to imagine that feeling of pure unconditional love is a miniature sun right in the middle of our chest, front to back, left to right. We're going to grow this sun with our love resonance until we are encapsulated within it. So we're utilizing the breath. On the inhale, we're going to start off with about a tennis ball sized sun. And this is just pure love. So reds, oranges, some white light, white heat, white light in there, some deep pearlescent, deep ruby reds, the entire warm side of the spectrum. So our tennis ball sized sun, we're going to grow with our inhale and strengthen the intensity of the light with our exhale. Grow with the inhale. Strengthen the intensity of the light with the exhale. So maybe we're up to around a basketball-sized sun now, starting to poke at the edges of our physical form. Continue breathing. In, growing that sun. Out, intensifying the light until it expands beyond your physical form. All the way until you're inside of this brilliant, glowing sphere of energetic love that we're interpreting as a sun. About 12 feet in every direction, complete encapsulation within this within the diameter of this sphere, into the earth, out to the sides as far as our arms can reach, up into the sky. Once you get to that about a 12-foot diameter, we're going to let that feeling that we started with settle back at our core. We're charging this love sun that we're now within from that energetic space within us. and we're broadcasting it out 12 feet in every direction. Any negative thoughts, any fears, any judgments against self or others, recognize that those are not you. Those are your system speaking and trying to keep you safe. The big differentiation that we make in the book is the difference between our thoughts, our emotions, and our reactions, and us. The usness is the energy that experiences those things. Those things are not us. And about 80% of our daily thoughts will be negative. So the opportunity is to remember this feeling of our resonant love broadcast. And anytime we get knocked off of our balance, knocked off of our center, continue with the breath. That's another big factor. Breath and change are the only two constants in life. And our breath is truly the only real thing that follows us through our entire lives. Our stomach lining and the acidic environment of our stomach transforms and regenerates every 3 days or so, about every 72 hours. Our bones completely regenerate about every 17 years. So if you're older than 17 years old, you're literally not the same person that you were before. You're living in an entirely new system that has the same programs, has the same patterns, has the same conditioning. But the newness of our physical form is the opportunity. If our systems can change as readily as they do, what's stopping us? So just continue with this breath pattern and with this visualization until you feel settled. You might feel some emotional release. If something comes your way that is emotional, ride that wave. Do not tamp it down. Do not push it away. That's the pressure release valve on your pressure cooker that's saying, hey, I'm ready to go too. Let me go. And then just stay with this posture and this breath until you feel resonant with yourself, until you feel resonant with that memory or that visualization of love. Notice if the mind gets a little quieter. If we're really into some exploration in our grounding practice that we're currently in, you can ask higher self, inner knowing, what is the thing for me to know, see, hear, or understand right now? And then just wait. See what information comes to you. See what insight finds its way to you. Then once you feel this balance, once you feel this return to presence, that's going to be your signifier that your process is complete. Then you can release.
Wow, Kevin.
Amazing.
And that is something that children can do, adults can do, anybody at any age can do.
Absolutely.
It's a really great reset for people that have high anxiety. It's great for.
Oh my gosh, anxiety, depression, social fears, not feeling comfortable or confident with self for any reason. It really is an exercise in bringing us back into ourselves, which is where the information is. That's where the information and the wholeness, the healed us is already there. It's already within us. It's just these layers of trauma, conditioning, programming that have really been compacted into sediment that are keeping us from that wholeness. And the more work we do on our own or with others that excavates that sediment, the more closer we're getting back to that wholeness that's always been there.
Kevin, you obviously do personal consultations with people. So they need to get in touch with you, radicalenlightenment.com, because I know a lot of people from here will want to contact you. And the book, My Guy on the Ninth Floor, you can order that on Amazon. Yeah. And it's already in bookstores. I saw it the other day. And thank you, Kevin, very much for all of your incredible wisdom and sharing that with us.
Oh, Kevin, it was amazing. I have so many people are writing, was so helpful for everybody. A lot of emotion came up with
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Wow, that's amazing. And so the best way to reach you is from your website, Radical Enlightenment.
Yeah, that's the good umbrella. And then we've got a lot of offerings, and just reflections on things on social media, Instagram and Facebook.
And you and Kellee have a workshop coming up too, right? You have a workshop, and that's in August.
It's going to be in September. It kicks off September 17th.
Okay.
And
that's your birthday.
It is. It is my birthday. Yeah.
Very good.
I remember.
Yeah. It was a really nice serendipity with that one. It was in the flow. So that's going to be our Radical Relationships course, and it's a practice series. It's an intensive practice series, and James, you had mentioned the 4 pillars, really 4 or 5 pillars of the book, which are radical energy, radical honesty, radical acceptance, radical empathy, and radical balance.
Wow.
And then our 6th week of the practice is radical freedom and radical responsibility, because they go hand in hand.
Right.
So this is something for if you're in a relationship and you've got a partner that's open to really clearing the junk out of the trunk, really holding up that mirror to ourselves so that we can connect more indelibly with ourselves and others. It's primed and ready to go. It is, for all intents and purposes, 2-for-1 pricing. And so if you have an additional person that you'd like to attend with, partner, lover, mother, child, friend, best friend, brother from another mother, sister from another mister, whatever it is. Or if you're solo, if you're not in a relationship and you're kind of distanced from family, but you really want to start excavating some of those layers and be more present and more whole within yourself, so that you can do those same things. It's a great accelerator for that personal practice.
Wow. Well, I want to give you a radical thank you.
Yes, thank you. Really great.
It's just amazing. Everybody's loving this.
Incredible. Thank you very much. We'll have you both on next time in August. We'll get you
to do that. Yes. And then don't forget, James has got an evening of spirit this Friday. Everybody sign up for that. You're going to love it.
Yes.
And we'll be back next Monday with Past Lives.
Past Lives. Very good. Thank you. Thank you much, Kevin. Bye, Kellee.
Bye.
You've been listening to Both Sides Now and Beyond, featuring spiritual medium and master teacher James Van Praagh and spiritual medium and psychotherapist Kellee White.
The James and Kellee Show.